Joining me now is Vermont Senator and former presidential candidate Bernie Sanders. Where do we stand on doing something on this relief bill before the end of next week? And I know you tried to get some money out of defense spending to put it into help for those who need it most, and that failed. So where do you go next?
Angie, it's not a question of doing something. It is a question of doing a whole lot. We are in the worst economic conditions since the Great Depression. I mean, we are talking about, as you've just indicated, tens of millions of people have lost their jobs in the last few months. We're talking about people in my state of Vermont and all over this country who are struggling to put food on the table, people who are worried about getting evicted from their homes, people who can't go to the doctor because they lost their jobs and no longer have any health care. If there has ever been a time in American history where the Congress has got to stand with working families, low-income people, now is that time. And we have got to be aggressive. And it is outrageous, to my mind, that we have Republicans who are saying, well, we don't want to do anything. We're too busy worrying about tax breaks for the rich or spending $740 billion on the military. And we're not going to worry about what's going on to the lives of ordinary Americans. So I would hope that the Democrats remain strong and that we say, you know what? We are going to extend unemployment benefits, including that $600 supplement. That is life and death for millions of men, women, and children in this country. That we are going to make sure that every adult gets an additional monthly check, I would think, of $2,000. That health care during this crisis is a human right, not a privilege. Anybody should be able to go to the doctor when they need to. So now is the time, in this unprecedented moment in American history, for Congress to act in a very strong and aggressive way. I happen to believe, Andrea, that in this unusual moment in American history, that the American people are learning some very profound lessons. And the lessons that we're learning is that when millions of people lose their jobs, they should not be losing their health care as well. And the other lesson is that despite the fact that before the pandemic, we had a relatively low unemployment rate, that doesn't mean we had a good economy when half of our people are living paycheck to paycheck. And that is why we have got to raise that minimum wage to at least $15 an hour, maybe higher than that. We cannot continue to have an economy where three people on top own more wealth than the bottom half of the American people. And by the way, during this pandemic, at a time of massive income and wealth inequality, the very, very wealthiest people like Jeff Bezos, the Walton family, have been making tens of billions of dollars, while ordinary people are seeing a decline in their wealth and income. So I think that given all of the suffering that is out there right now, a whole lot of people are rethinking this economy, and they're figuring out, how do we have an economy that works for all of us? If you go to work, you earn a decent wage. How do we rebuild our infrastructure? How do we deal with climate change and create millions of jobs in the process? So this is a time to immediately, and I hope Congress does that in the next week, address the immediate crises that we face. But we've got to think long-term as well, as how we create a government and economy that is not dominated by big money interests.
Meanwhile, the president has been sending federal agents into Portland now, and threatening to do it in Chicago as well, now threatening other Democratic cities, using tear gas against the mayor of Portland when he went out to talk to the protesters last night. What is your response to the Attorney General and the president saying that it's the Democratic cities that have this crime problem, and they need to have federal agents from Homeland Security?
I don't want to get people too nervous here, but we have a president who really does not believe in democracy. This is a president who is trying to suppress the vote. This is a president who has contempt for Congress, ignores what Congress does. This is a president who does not respect a free press in America, the First Amendment. He thinks the media is an enemy of the people. And now what this president is saying is, I don't care what mayors say. I don't care what governors say. I am the president. I will send federal troops or federal agents any place in this country. That is, Andrea, what a police state is about. That is what a movement toward authoritarianism is about. And the American people have got to stand up and say, you know what, well, we may have disagreements, but we are a democracy. We respect local control. We respect the role of governors. A president cannot send troops wherever he wants to quash dissent. People have a First Amendment right to protest. Now, obviously, all of us hope that those protests are not violent. I think that's counterproductive. But you cannot, as a president, just send troops willy-nilly. That is what a police state is about, and the American people, regardless of political views, have got to oppose that.
A Republican, a former Homeland Security Secretary, former governor, former House member, Tom Ridge, said that the president was acting as though this was his personal militia.
Well, I mean, that's what it sounds like, and I think you're going to see, you know, what conservative Republicans are supposed to be about is, hey, you leave me alone, I leave you alone, we hate big government. Well, if you hate big government, you surely hate federal agents arresting people, grabbing people, putting them into unmarked cars without any identification. If you don't like big government, my God, you got to speak up against that type of outrageous behavior.
Now, there was an extraordinary moment on the House floor today. One of your colleagues, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, giving a speech about what happened when Ted Yoho, a Republican from Florida, cursed her out the other day more than once, leaving the floor on the House steps in front of other witnesses as well. And let me play part of what she said. We've bleeped out her quoting him.
Representative Yoho put his finger in my face. He called me disgusting. He called me crazy. In front of reporters, Representative Yoho called me, and I quote, I will not stay up late at night waiting for an apology from a man who has no remorse over calling women and using abusive language towards women.
Is there anything that the Ethics Committee or that House leaders can do about the behavior of Congressman Yoho?
Well, I'm not a member of the House, but I certainly hope so, and I think that that would be appropriate. Alexandria made this point. People can disagree. She has strong views. I happen to agree with most of her views. But she gets along well with members of the House. And to have somebody attack her verbally in that way is absolutely outrageous. I read his so-called apology, which really wasn't an apology at all. And I would hope that the House leadership demands a real apology from him, at the very least.